Hi guys, Rainer here. Thanks for watching the channel. Thanks for watching the clips. This is my question and answer video based on questions which people have submitted. Coming up, how did I get to be a conductor? What's the best and worst part about being a conductor? Are there any pieces of classical music which I don't like, which everybody loves? And what do I think of two-set violin? Stay tuned. The first question comes from Fausto, who says, if you could give a music-related piece of advice to a young version of you, let's say 18 years old, so only 3 years ago now, what would it be? Well, the first thing is to everybody, consistency is the key to everything to do with music. If you play a musical instrument, you've got to play that instrument every single day. Sit down at your piano, pick up your violin, whatever it is. That is the key, even on days when you don't want to do it. I, of course, took a long while to go from playing the piano, which is what I did. I was always a mad keen pianist, to doing comedy, to then combining comedy and music. So if I could speak to my 18-year-old self and say, hey, just think about the comedy more, of course I would do that. But it took quite a while for me to go through that process. So couldn't really have been shortcut, I don't think. I've had a great time on the way and had some amazing experiences. How did I get to be a conductor? Well, I was a pianist, so that's how I began my musical life. In tandem, I got really interested in comedy. I went to comedy clubs and then I started performing comedy in comedy clubs, which we have a lot of here in London. And after a while, I decided to give up my music job and be a professional stand-up comedian. Only after a while did I then combine the music with the comedy. I wrote a show about classical music. And after that, I added musicians to that show, and those musicians needed conducting. That became the RAINER Hersch Orchestra, which you've probably seen clips of. At that point, people asked me if I could conduct their orchestra, and that meant I had to study conducting, which I did in London for about 5 years, also in Vienna, with a very famous teacher in Vienna, and that's how it began. Roberta asks, what's the worst thing about being a conductor? The worst thing is everybody assumes you're responsible for everything, including the lighting on stage. So when we're rehearsing in a new venue, the musicians will hold up their hand and say, Rainer, is there any chance of any more light on my music stand? And I then have to turn around and shout to the technician, is there any chance of more light on the music stand? Which of course they could have done. And if anything goes wrong, of course, it's your fault. That's not a bad thing, actually. It's always the conductor's fault. That was one of the things my teacher told me. And in a way, it's true. Even wrong notes. Because if you stress somebody out so much with your conducting that they make a wrong note, well, that's your fault too. How doesn't your elbow hurt after swinging the baton for over half an hour straight? And how isn't your arm tired after so long? I tell you, it does get tired. So what you have to do is conserve energy, not be quite so big during some of the parts, or use your left hand just to break it up. The famous conductor Simon Rattle said, if you don't need an osteopath after conducting Beethoven, then something's wrong. And he was right. What's your opinion of the recorder? The recorder is actually a very beautiful instrument if you hear it played by a professional. A few years ago, I did a concert with a recorder player called Piers Adams, and he was absolutely brilliant. He played like so fast and so amazing on this little instrument. The only thing is that the recorder is very easy to produce out of plastic for like 10p. So that if you want to give a child a musical instrument, something pretty indestructible, you're going to give them a recorder. that means that quite a lot of people's recollections about the recorder are about this kind of terrible tootly sound. And of course, if you're making comedy, you're going to focus on that. Maximilian asks, what kind of baton is the right one for what kind of music? Well, I only have one baton. Most people use only one baton. They wouldn't change the baton. This is my baton. It's got a sort of long flat piece of cork there, and that's how long it is, and it kind of fits under my hand. And I just got used to these kind of batons. It enables you to move your hand and your wrist, and you get used to the way of holding it. Some people use kind of longer batons with a smaller bit of cork. I don't like those because you kind of grasp them, and once you grasp them, you're not kind of flexible like I like it. This one is a rather interesting one. This is same as my baton, a bit longer there, but it's got a magnet in the end for attracting people with a compass. This one, this is a rather strange one. This is barbed wire baton, so that nobody grabs your baton, you know, used for conducting Jesus Christ Superstar maybe. And this is a wiggly baton that, also with barbed wire in it. This is a wiggly baton without barbed wire, so one or the other, you know, you can mix it up. Angelos Tripios, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, asks, for which piece would you die to be the composer? Well, Angelos, there's plenty of pieces for which I would die to be the performer. There's a lot of piano music I've never really happily got my fingers around. A lot of pieces of Liszt, lots of pieces of Chopin. Oh, it's without end. But for being the composer, well, there's so much great music out there. I think it would be wonderful to have your name associated with any one of them. There is one piece of music which I had the pleasure of conducting a few times, and that is the 9th Symphony by Beethoven, the Choral Symphony. Now, when the choir is going and the orchestra is playing away, it is the most uplifting thing. And I think the ideas contained in that music are the most amazing ideas. So it's great to conduct it. If I could have been the composer of it, well, that would have been really special. Kelly asks, if you couldn't have a career in music, what would you like to do for a living? You know what, Kelly? I've often thought if I wasn't anything to do with music, I'd be a tour guide, like for foreign holidays, like for rich tourists. I'd go around and explain to them about monuments or something. What I like about that, for a start, you'd be able to kind of see all these things yourself over and over again, and you'd probably be able to have a bit of fun with it as well, because by the time you'd seen it for the 5th time, you'd have had some quite good jokes sorted out. Fabs asked, what are your tips for aspiring conductors? First thing, to be a conductor, you've really got to want to do it. It's not a kind of easy thing like, oh, I thought I might join a bank or I might be a conductor. It's something you have to devote yourself to, and it takes a lot of energy. Most people who are conductors have their own orchestra. They have their own orchestra for all sorts of reasons, but one is to practice with, and to develop their style with, and to develop a reputation with. And you've got to get into it like that. You've also got to be the kind of person who doesn't mind taking responsibility, doesn't mind standing up there and being the focus. I don't mean in a kind of power mad, look at me, aren't I brilliant type way, but just somebody who's okay with taking responsibility and being the person that others will turn to when things don't go right. And that's not everybody. So if you don't like that, then of course, you know, it's not a good job for you. You've also got to play an instrument, of course. Most conductors play the piano. I play the piano, and I also play the viola really badly. Ha ha! What else is new? And then you've got to study that kind of conducting language. You've got to study conducting a bit. A lot of people just get up there and they do it, and that's great if they can do that. But I think it helps to study it. So find a course somewhere where you can study that. Google that. I'm sure there's one near you, and you can just get your feet and find out how it's done and what it's about. How many languages do I speak? Well, English, of course, and my dad was German, and I have roots in Germany. Also ich spreche Deutsch und ich trete in Deutschland auf. Hablo también español. Hace unos años me han preguntado hacer un espectáculo en México en español. empecé a estudiar español y me gusta mucho el sonido del idioma. And so I speak Spanish, and we learn French at school. Je parle français, mais je n'ai jamais fait un concert en France. Dommage. Lucas asks, how many instruments do I myself play? Well, I started on the recorder, like everybody at school. My dad absolutely loved the clarinet. When I was 10, he gave me a clarinet. So I played the clarinet to grade 5. And I had to play it again recently in a concert with a soloist as a kind of joke. So I got my clarinet out and practiced for a bit to do that. But when I was 14, I discovered the piano and I fell in love with the piano. So from then, really, piano is my main instrument, and I played long and hard the piano, and then more recently I took up the viola because I wanted to find out all about string technique and playing in an orchestra. So those are my instruments. What do I think of TwoSetViolin? Do you know what? I think they're amazing guys. I really do like their stuff. I think it's incredible that they have developed such a following, and they talk about really kind of things which I think are quite complicated, like tenor clef was a recent video, and historical things to do with music. And anybody that does that and gets an audience for it has my vote. I love watching their stuff. I do it whenever I can. Sometimes I wish their videos weren't quite so long, but that's just me. And I'd love to see if they could maybe do a live show. I think they were thinking about touring at one point. I don't know if that's still a plan. And if they do, maybe they'll need an orchestra and maybe they'll need a conductor. Waiting for the call. Mikhail asks, would you introduce yourself as a comedian or a conductor? Do you know, it's a funny thing because people always ask me that. Which one do I feel most at home with? And you know, those things go completely parallel in my life. I love them both, and I think they both have a great ability to communicate. I think music can reach incredible sort of depths, and you can really talk to somebody in a lot of emotions. Comedy is very direct, and you can't fake that. You either laugh or you don't. And that's what I really like about being a comedian. So that's it, guys. Thank you very much for the questions. It's been great to have them. It's been great to have some contact, to know that there are people out there enjoying the videos. Stay in touch with my channel. Check back soon, and I'll see you then. Cheers. Bye.